Sometimes in our world we have this approach to think that children are too little to understand the depths of our faith or the depths of the crises that are happening in our world. Often hear parents or sometimes teachers say, "Oh no, that'll be too scary for the kids to hear about what's happening in different parts of the world with Ukraine or war or destruction or even elements of sometimes of the scriptures." They think, these things are too difficult for children. And perhaps there is a development of very young children that you need to be careful with. Today we celebrate the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, where on this day in 1917, in the midst of World War I, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to 3 children and brought them messages in relation to the disasters that were happening in the world at the time, to pray for peace in relation to what was happening in the world, to pray for the people in Russia at that time with the emergence of communism, and to pray for those who were being impacted by the Spanish flu that was happening at that time as well. 3 little children. Francisco, who became a saint, was only about 6. Sister Jacinta was about 8, and Lucy was a little bit older, about 10 or so. Mary didn't perhaps sugarcoat things. Reminded them the need to pray, that people are in suffering and that some people even have chosen a path that's not of God. And you could say, well, why should Mary speak like this to a 6-year-old? I think we can, and this is the example that Mary gives. The prayers of the young, especially the prayers of children, are exceptionally valuable. And we shouldn't just sugarcoat things all the time. Often we can do this. We talk about Christmas with Santa and people struggle to talk about the humility of the birth of Jesus Christ. We could talk about the Easter Bunny and forget to talk about what happened at Easter. But this was reminding us, I think, with Our Lady of Fatima, that Mary is truthful, but Mary also knows that children and the prayers of children are exceptionally important. On this day in 1981, many of you might remember probably turning on the news in the evening and hearing that Pope John Paul II had been shot in St. Peter's Square. It was a very dramatic event. I wasn't alive at the time, but I know something of having seen some of the news stories. He was shot on this day, and they expected that he would die. John Paul II wrote about this event afterwards, and he looked around St. Peter's, the square of St. Peter's where he'd been shot after the audience that day. And he was looking for an image of Mary and couldn't find an image of Mary anywhere in the square, because he knew and felt that the protection of Mary was with him on that day, that guiding the bullets away from his vital organs. After many months of recovery, John Paul II recovered and then went on to be a pope for another 24 years. Quite an incredible story. The year after that, in 1982, John Paul II went to Fatima and placed the bullets that had gone into him, he placed them in the crown of Mary there, knowing that Mary was there to assist him in those grave moments of his life. And Mary is there to assist us in these grave moments as well. In the midst of great disaster in 1917, in relation to World War I, the Spanish flu, and the emergence of communism, Mary appears and reminds children, but also reminds the whole world to pray and to be holy with the Lord. Let's today, on this day, know that Mary's with us during those good times, but Mary is especially with us during those moments of great suffering, those great disasters. Mary is with us to lift us up, like she did for John Paul II, guided the bullets away and allowed him to survive, to contribute great things. Mary does the same for us as well. Our Lady of Fatima, pray for us.